Hey, John, does the Big 12, after getting shut out last year in the BCS Championship Final Four, does the Big 12 have a team that's going to get into the Final Four this year? And which team do you think that'll be?
Yeah, I think they're capable. You know, TCU or Baylor would be it really looks like a two-team race if you look at it on paper. You know, Oklahoma maybe could be in that mix. But TCU and Baylor have just really been loaded teams, and they're going to be in that conversation, and we probably won't know until the very end. They don't play each other till, I think, November 27th. So that either one of those teams could have made it last year, and I think could make it again.
John, you just mentioned Oklahoma. Who's going to be sneaky good this year? Who do we not really hear much about? You said TCU, Baylor. One of them should have been in the Final Four probably last year. Oklahoma, we know they're always going to be around, and they're not quite as mighty as they once were. But who else is on the horizon in the conference this year that nobody really is paying much attention to?
You know, maybe Texas Tech a little bit. Now, not that I think they can win the conference and jump up like TCU did, a year ago, but they've sort of been under the radar coming off a 4-8 year, sort of like TCU 2 years ago. They've got a new defensive coordinator now in David Gibbs. They've got a Ohio State transfer linebacker, Mike Mitchell, who's supposed to be pretty good. Maybe can improve that defense that's really been struggling. Cliff Kingsbury's offenses usually score some points. So, maybe that's a team that I don't think they win the conference, but they're probably picked in that 8-9 range. Maybe they're in the upper tier, in the 4 or 5 range instead.
Hey, John, Woody's mentioned Oklahoma a couple of times. Bob Stoops had to redo his whole coaching staff. And I'm wondering, if Oklahoma does not have a better season, is Stoops in trouble there?
It's a good question. It's interesting. There comes a point with some coaches where you just sort of run out your welcome, or you stay too long. And look, he's been a really, really good coach. He's won a national championship. He's competed for others. He's been up there constantly. But there is a what have you done for me lately? And there was such high expectations from last year. They go 8-5. He's got to retool his staff. So let's see how the new staff does. It's a year, and it's interesting. The Week 2 game, Oklahoma-Tennessee, is a fascinating game for both teams. Is Tennessee finally back and contender for the SEC? It's back to where we used to expect Bob Stoops to be.
So here we go now, 5 minutes. We've talked about Oklahoma 3 times. We've talked about Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU. We haven't mentioned the University of Texas, the highest grossing team in the entire world, including NFL teams, and a team that had a brand new coach last year. And
Charlie
a team,
Strong.
Yeah. And you think Big 12, you have to start with Texas because that's one of the reasons Nebraska left. It thought Texas was ruling the Big 12. So what's going on with Texas?
I just think it'll probably be another rocky, 500 type season for Charlie Strong. I think they still have to sort some things out. They still have to, find a legitimate quarterback. Charlie Strong still has to remember his quarterback's name. He couldn't quite remember it in a lawsuit litigation. It was kind of embarrassing for Texas. I think he could be on the right path. He's really cracking down on discipline. He's trying to change sort of like the quote unquote culture there. He's going to need a little bit of time, but you don't get a whole lot of time in a place like Texas.
Yeah, I was going to say
the amount of money there.
Yeah, you say heading in the right direction. Maybe they're going to be. That's not the University of Texas. It's supposed to be. It is supposed to be. You go, Big 12, Texas,
yeah,
and then maybe Baylor, maybe TSU.
Yeah, too many
TCU.
7 and 5s don't cut it, right, John?
What in the world? What in the world happened to Texas?
I know. Well, I think I think they got complacent some. I mean, just because you have the most money doesn't mean you're recruiting the best or you're coaching the best. I think by the end of Mac Brown's tenure, got complacent. I think they took a lot of commitment, particularly from Texas area kids, really, really early, and that can create kind of a soft mentality a little bit sometimes too. That I've got my scholarship, and then you just sort of come into this sort of country club atmosphere instead of maybe wait a little bit longer, maybe take some chances on some other players, outside the state. I mean, if you remember, they missed, Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was interested in Texas, several years ago, coming out of high school in Alabama, called them. They didn't return calls. Now, maybe they don't get them, but you would think you return that phone call.
It used to be, forget about used to be. Let's talk about right now. Does the Big 12 need new blood? It's as if it's the Big 12 against the rest of the world now. oh, if you really want to be in there, you got to go play a conference championship game. And then the Big 12 comes around and says, the hell with all of you. We're doing it right here. We belong. I mean, how did Big 12 suddenly get cast in the role as being the evil empire and being, I mean, they're thought of less than the Mountain West Conference.
Almost an afterthought.
Yeah, well, because of what we just talked about, and that is Oklahoma and Texas aren't playing up to what their capabilities are and what they historically are, and how much money that they bring in and they spend. So you think about it. I mean, if Texas and Oklahoma are clicking and they're better, and you sort of have Baylor and TCU and they don't totally fall off the map and they're still contenders, if Oklahoma and Texas rise. I mean, to be fair, TCU and Baylor have benefited by Oklahoma and Texas being down. They've benefited, but they've created good programs. So imagine if you've got Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma, and Texas, all as pretty good programs at the same time. That's a strong conference. That will get respected more, and you still have a Kansas State in the mix, and Oklahoma State, maybe that. Then you're getting some more respect, but they've got to get Texas and Oklahoma back up there.
Yeah. John, there are a lot of people around here, me included, who not only believe the Big 12 has to expand, but maybe Colorado State. If they do expand by a couple of teams, does Colorado State have a chance at getting into the Big 12? Are they a good fit?
I heard them floated as sort of a possibility, just depending on how they do moving forward with Mike Bobo and with the new stadium that they have planned. I mean, they're showing a commitment. There's no doubt to football. BYU is the one name you hear quite a bit, just because it's got the biggest national brand of sort of the contenders out there. Florida, do you want to get in there and get like a UCF? Do you get like a Cincinnati or maybe a Memphis? The issue for the Big 12 is that there's no real slam dunk expansion candidates out there, like we've seen sometimes for other conferences, or if Florida State had sort of still been available, they were flirting, a couple years ago. So if you add someone, you don't want to just add someone for the sake of adding someone. They've got to bring some value to the table, too.
Yeah, and that's where I would add, I think you make a great point there at the end, John, that it would seem to me like the Big 12 needs a couple of media markets. They already got the small Texas towns and everything. You got Stillwater, Oklahoma. The Colorado State's another one of those. Fort Collins, Colorado. That's not really a Denver market.
It's not its own TV market either.
BYU is not even Salt Lake City. I mean, Salt Lake City's not that big. If I were the Big 12, I'd be out looking at some team that is in a major market that's not in a major conference. I don't know what that is, John, but have you heard any discussion about whether what I'm saying makes any sense, that maybe they need to add a couple of places that actually have TV viewers? I think that's Nebraska and Colorado. I think one of the main reasons they got out was the Big 12 conference, other than Texas, which basically is its own entity, wasn't getting the TV money of the SEC or
Texas
Big
was getting the TV money. Nobody else was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. So you're right. You had heard that talk, some that if they expand, go to a new state, go to some bigger markets. Now, the question still becomes, say you go into Florida and you get like a UCF. Well, how much does UCF really command the state of Florida and the TV audience there, and just sort of the identity? I mean, you got Florida and Florida State that dominate there. Even Miami, you probably would say, is ahead of UCF, but UCF is rising up, so that's just a question. If you go to like a Cincinnati in a state like Ohio, do you really get the market when it's a totally an Ohio State, and also it's a pro sports town? So I don't know, but it's a good question to ask.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'd consider Notre Dame.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Hey, John, we really appreciate your time. We apologize for Les being an idiot.
It happens often, John.
I hope you'll join us during the course of football season, because actually, people out here really still love the Big 12, and we just don't get enough information about it because
now you can. Go to CBSSports.com and read Jon Solomon. You got a Twitter handle, John?
Yeah, it's at Jon Solomon CBS, and it's JON.
Beautiful. Hey, appreciate your time.